Today I am going there. Okay. I want to talk about who Epstein's clients are. There are rumors about the Epstein 8. Some of them have been named, some of them have been described vaguely. There are also other people that are not part of the Epstein 8 and don't fit those descriptions that people speculate are clients of Jeffrey Epstein, and I kind of want to talk about them all. By the way, allegedly, please don't sue me. This is my conspiracy theory. You cannot sue someone this ridiculous. It doesn't just protect me from aliens, it protects me from lawsuits. I want you guys to know that I don't care about political parties or anything. I only care about actual parties. I'm actually registered as an independent and I don't even like that party. I just don't like anyone. I'm an equal opportunity hater. I don't like anybody. It's looking like the full list of John Does is not going to be released. And honestly, it's really annoying because although none of them have been convicted, it's like we have a sex offender registry for a reason, because people should know if you have these proclivities or tendencies. And so it's like, because they're so powerful, they're finding ways to get around it. And so freedom of speech, I'm going to evoke that. Virginia Roberts, she is one of the girls that was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She said she was a sex slave of both of them and that she was forced to sleep with other powerful people. And there's a deposition from a lawsuit that she has against Ghislaine Maxwell where these names and vague descriptions were released. So let's start there. Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney saying, "Where did you have sex with Marvin Minsky?" Virginia says, "I believe it was the U.S. Virgin Islands, Jeffrey Epstein's island in the U.S. Virgin Islands." In the same deposition, Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asks Virginia, "Other than Glenn Dubin, Stephen Kaufman, Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, Bill Richardson, another prince, the large hotel chain owner, and Marvin Minsky, is there anyone else that Ghislaine Maxwell directed you to go have sex with?" Virginia says, "I am definitely sure there is, but can I remember everybody's name? No." There are so many people in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, and a lot of them are not his clients. The flight logs, I feel like, are a little bit more damning, but still not everybody in the flight logs was a client of Jeffrey Epstein's. But what I'm going to be doing is matching descriptions with context clues, with patterns they have previously, and flight logs, and you'll see. Thank you to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this video. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress and bedding company, and they ship the mattresses straight to your door. With your Helix Sleep mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial, a 10-year warranty, and there are financing options and payment plans. If you're unsure about buying a mattress without actually trying it, they give you more than 3 months to try the mattress, and if you don't like it, they'll pick it up for you and you get a full refund. Everyone is different and Helix knows that, and they make ordering the mattress so easy. You take this quiz and they recommend a bed based on the quiz. For me, I got the Helix Moonlight Luxe. I'm a stomach sleeper and I like my bed to be a little bit on the soft side. So the one that I have has like this soft cover and it's still firm. And when I sleep on my stomach, I've had this bed for a few weeks now, I've noticed that I don't have as much back pain as I did with my other mattress that was way thinner and just not that great. But this one is comfortable and supportive. I sleep alone, well, except for Lulu. Hi, Lulu. Sometimes I sleep with Looney. And she is a side sleeper. And she likes the softest mattress in the world. It's Luna approved. It's so easy because they deliver the mattress right to your door. And if you're in the United States, the shipping is free. I personally love my Helix mattress and I think you will too. If you're interested, click the link below. The link below will get you up to $200 off your mattress and 2 free pillows. So thank you so much to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this video. Right?
Say thank you, Helix. Oh, Jesus, I love you, Mama. You're my best friend. You're my best. Okay, let's go. Bye.
Virginia says, they instructed me to go to George Mitchell. There was, another foreign president. I can't remember his name. He was Spanish. There's a whole bunch of them that it's hard for me to remember all of them. I was told to do something by these people constantly, my whole life revolved around just pleasing these men and keeping Ghislaine and Jeffrey happy. Their whole entire lives revolved around sex. She was sexually trafficked to a well-known prime minister, to Prince Andrew, to George Mitchell, and to a man who was introduced as a foreign prince on a visit to the south of France. Another person that was named by Virginia and other people too is Alan Dershowitz. First, we have Marvin Minsky. Now, he died in 2016. Minsky's widow, Gloria Rudish, she denied the allegations. She said that she visited Epstein's home in New York and Palm Beach, his homes, shall I say, and she visited them with her husband Marvin, quote, 3 or 4 times at the most. They always went as a couple. She says, we were always together. We didn't stay at his house or anything. And she said that there were young girls at his residences, but that, quote, none of them seemed very young. I'm a pediatrician. I think I would have noticed. Although his wife says she was always with him and she went to the home with him, he did appear on Epstein's flight logs on the Lolita Express. She never claimed to be on the Lolita Express. He was on the flight logs, so it's very possible that he was on the Lolita Express and his wife didn't know. Not only was he on the flight logs, but he went to Jeffrey Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, aka Pedo Island. That's what the locals called it. Is it pedo or pedo? Pedophile. Pedophile. I'm going to say pedo. Another witness confirmed that Marvin Minsky was on the Lolita Express with Virginia in March of 2001, and that also on that flight were Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's private chef Adam Perry Lang, and shipping heir Henry Jarecki. At the time, Virginia was 17 and Marvin Minsky was 73. Marvin Minsky is actually a very prominent and influential scientist. He was a professor at MIT. He was also known as the father of AI, artificial intelligence. He actually developed the first head-mounted display that was, quote, a precursor to modern VR and augmented reality systems. Epstein donated to universities and research projects and supported many scientists like Marvin. And Epstein reportedly told a friend, quote, I only have 2 interests, science and pussy, end quote. Epstein hosted a lot of science conferences at his private island, Pedo Island. Did I say I was going to say pedo? I'm going to say both. Just whatever. I can barely speak. Have you not noticed? He would have scientists and young girls at the island at the conferences at the same time. And then at some point in the evening, as he was talking to the scientists, a very young girl would come and start massaging Epstein as he was talking to the scientists, almost like, see this? You like this? I can offer you this. Are you interested in this? And that's a thing that you're going to see happening a lot, is that Epstein kind of targeted certain people and would tempt them by letting them see what he did with the girls, what he was able to get away with, and then would then offer these things to these men. And I go into a lot in my previous video, but it was basically blackmail. He wanted blackmail, and we'll talk later about why he wanted the blackmail, what it was about, it's the whole thing. So Marvin Minsky hosted a conference in Pedophile Island in 2011, but also there are other scientists that are linked to Epstein too. One of them is Lawrence Krauss. And Lawrence Krauss has his own allegations when he was a professor that have nothing to do with Epstein Okay, and he's a staunch defender of Epstein. In 2011, years after Epstein's first conviction of sex trafficking of a minor, Lawrence Krauss said, quote, Jeffrey has surrounded himself with beautiful women and young women, but they're not as young as the ones that were claimed. I always judge things on empirical evidence, and he always has women ages 19 to 23 around him, but I've never seen anything else. So, as a scientist, my presumption is that whatever the problems were, I would believe him over other people. I don't feel tarnished in any way by my relationship with Jeffrey. I feel raised by it. Lawrence Krauss was a professor at Arizona State University, and he was tenured, but he ended up resigning because he had allegations of sexual harassment against him. Quote, Krauss reportedly made sexist jokes to undergraduate students, groped women, and told another ASU employee that he was going to buy her birth control so she didn't inconvenience him by taking maternity leave. The next person on the list that was mentioned by Virginia is Glenn Dubin. He was found on Epstein's Lolita Express flight logs, and Glenn Dubin and his wife, Dr. Ava Anderson Dubin, are very close friends of Jeffrey Epstein, and they actually go way back. Eva Dubin is a former Miss Sweden, and she's also formerly Epstein's girlfriend too. Epstein also openly talked about wanting to marry her daughter in front of her. And when she married Glenn Dubin in 1994, they all remained close friends. So close, in fact, that they vouched for Jeffrey after he served time for trafficking a minor, and he really didn't serve time like normal people would have to. And I go into detail about that in my other video. Sorry, I feel like I'm like my other video. The Dubins wrote an email to his probation officer that was pretty disturbing. So this is an email from Eva Dubin. She sent it Monday, November 16, 2009 at 5:29 p.m. to Sloan Carmen, who is Jeffrey Epstein's probation officer. She says, Dear Officer Sloan, we are the parents of 3 children, redacted, and redacted. They are all under the age of 18. I am aware that Jeffrey Epstein is a registered sex offender and had pled guilty to soliciting for prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution. I am 100% comfortable with Jeffrey Epstein around my children. I, Eva Dubin, am an internist and have known Jeffrey for over 20 years. Please feel free to contact us at 212-redacted. Sincerely, Eva and Glenn Dubin. Okay. Epstein donated to Eva Dubin's breast cancer charity, and then also her daughter had 2 organizations. He donated to those organizations as well. But the weird thing is, it's not like the Dubins needed money, because according to Forbes, they had a net worth of over $2 billion with a B dollars. So it's like, I don't know. Glenn Dubin is referred to as a quote hedge fund giant. When this came out and the probation officer email was leaked and all of that, and then Epstein was charged with the crimes, and the thing leaked where Virginia was naming Glenn Dubin as someone she was forced to sleep with, they came out with a statement. Let me read you the statement. It says, Glenn and Eva Dubin are outraged by the allegations in the unsealed court records, which are demonstrably false and defamatory. The Dubins have flight records and other evidence that definitively disprove that any such events occurred. The Dubins are horrified by the new allegations against Jeffrey Epstein. Had they been aware of the vile and unspeakable conduct described in these new allegations, they would have cut off all ties and certainly never have allowed their children to be in his presence. Sure. Moving on to the next name on the list, Stephen Kaufman. Now, I need to give a disclaimer with this one because I'm actually not 100% sure that this is the exact Stephen Kaufman. I would say I'm like 75-80% sure. So that's my disclaimer. But let me give you my rationale on why I think it might be the one that Virginia mentioned. So He is now a lawyer, but he was the former Democratic city councilman and New York State Assemblyman from the Bronx. Jeffrey Epstein was really close with politicians in New York, particularly the Democratic ones, around the time where this guy was a politician. And then also he has these scandals where he was like doing some financial fraud with politics. I'll tell you what it was. So it says here, in April 2008, the New York City Campaign Financial Board found that Kaufman's campaign violated the campaign finance program spending limit during the 2005 primary election campaign. And we know that this was around the time that Epstein was donating to these politicians, and so the name matches. And when I looked online, a lot of people are connecting them, but again, I'm not 100% sure. In 1975, the New York Supreme Court said, quote, in the early summer of 1975, it had been discovered that New York City Councilman Stephen Kaufman had deceived the residents of Co-op City by his duplicitous conduct involving the rent strike. And the definition of duplicitous is deceitful and treacherous. And this guy doesn't talk at all. He didn't refute the claims. He didn't come out. He didn't speak. And he's currently a lawyer. If it is this guy, he is an attorney. Excuse me. Yikes. Next on the list is Prince Andrew. Now, this one is pretty much confirmed, allegedly pretty much confirmed, because he just paid a settlement to Virginia, which doesn't scream I'm innocent, although it's not an admission of guilt. His name was found in Epstein's black book and on the flight logs. There's also a photograph with him and Virginia and Ghislaine. Virginia said that Epstein is the one who took this photo, and Prince Andrew has been to Epstein's home many times, and Epstein refers to him as just Andy, and the British press call him Randy Andy because he's known for being like a party animal. And Epstein actually attended Prince Andrew's daughter Beatrice, her 18th birthday. Harvey Weinstein was at the party too, and this was in 2006, just 8 days before Epstein was arrested on charges of child sex trafficking. After he was released and did his time, Prince Andrew was still standing by him, just like the Dubins were, and he threw Epstein a party. Apparently Katie Couric, the news anchor, was there too. According to Virginia, when Epstein ordered her to go sleep with Prince Andrew, he told her to get blackmail material on Prince Andrew. And apparently the blackmail material is that he liked to suck toes. Like I mentioned earlier, this whole blackmail thing, right? Jeffrey Epstein had cameras in all of his homes, in all of the rooms and the bathrooms. There's a lot of talk about him being an agent. People are like, is it for the Mossad, the Israeli like CIA, or was it actually for the CIA, or what was he doing? It was the whole thing. I talk about Ghislaine and her dad and the Mossad and Jeffrey Epstein a lot in my part 1, part 2, which I'll link below. I will go over it a little bit later. The second time Jeffrey Epstein was charged, right, in 2019 when he killed himself. Before this happened, there was something interesting that happened with the judge and Prince Andrew. In 2015, a judge essentially protected Prince Andrew. It says Judge Kenneth Mara ordered Virginia Roberts' accusations about Andrew, the Duke of York, to be struck from the record and denied her attempt to join a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein, a friend of the prince and a convicted sex offender. Quote, at this juncture in the proceedings, these lurid details are unnecessary, Mara wrote in the order issued at the U.S. District Court in Southern Florida on Tuesday morning. These unnecessary details shall be stricken. And we're going to talk about Judge Kenneth Mara a little bit later because he did something similar for another person who was accused of being a client of Jeffrey Epstein. And so it's a little weird, like, what's up with this judge? But let's move on to the next person. The next person on the list is someone that everybody really knows. I talked about him a lot before, and that is Jean-Luc Brunel. And he is the owner of the model agency that was really like a funnel for girls for Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, Jean-Luc Brunel was recently found dead hanging in a jail cell Just like Epstein. It was officially ruled a suicide, but Well, he claims to be like a legitimate model agent with a legitimate model agency, but there is evidence against him. There are these phone messages that he left Epstein's staff, and they wrote down the message from him that are quite incriminating. One of them says, "He has a teacher for you to teach you how to speak Russian. She is 2 times 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free, and you can have first date today if you call." There was also the 60 Minutes episode from the 80s.
Every week, dozens of young American girls walk off airplanes in Paris and Milan. Not only do a lot of agencies take financial advantage of them, sometimes they're taken advantage of in other ways, too. One man Eileen Ford does associate with in Paris is this man, the head of Karen Models, one of the largest and most prestigious agencies in the country. His name is Jean-Luc Brunel. Courtney and Sherry, who are not Ford models, told us about the dinners he invites his other girls to attend with his male friends.
It's a meat market. You are there for the purpose of somebody wanting to take you home to bed. He is acting as a matchmaker. He's got the agency. He's got the girls. His friends say, "Oh, Jean-Luc, I'd like to meet some girls, or we're having a party tonight. Can you bring some girls?"
And what happens if you say no?
You don't work.
Be very careful on this. You actually have known that he has made someone pay a professional penalty for saying no.
I know. I paid a penalty for saying no.
I'm from Florida, little city, Pompano Beach. You know, I mean, come on. How am I going to know what goes on in Paris?
Jean-Luc invites them to parties where he has male friends, and it's clear what the arrangement is when you get there.
I don't believe that. I mean, I believe they said it.
But you don't believe it's true?
I find it hard to believe it's true.
When we filmed at the Bandouche, Jean-Luc Brunel was there. A number of models told us he has used cocaine heavily and offered it to the girls. Some warned that there were things that went beyond cocaine. This girl told us a few years ago she went to Jean-Luc's house with a few of his friends. She said a powerful hallucinogenic drug was slipped into her drink, and that Jean-Luc kept urging her to go in and take a bath. This ex-model says several years ago she went to Jean-Luc's house.
He gave you a drink?
Yes.
You drank it, and then what?
I blacked out.
The next thing you remember
was being in this man's bed.
Who was he?
Do I have to say the name?
Say
It
the
was
name.
Jean-Luc.
You were raped.
Yes, I do know that.
You're sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
You think everybody knows this about Jean-Luc Brunel?
Oh, yes. A lot of people know that. A lot of people.
They continued to deal with him.
We played a tape of the second girl's story of drugs and rape to Eileen Ford.
I don't know what to tell you. That's horrible.
We have talked to 5 other girls who say that they have had drugs put in their drinks by Jean-Luc or Jean-Luc's friends.
I hope you're wrong. And for his sake, I hope you're wrong.
Jean-Luc would also get U.S. passports for these girls that were from poor countries, a lot of times from Russia or Eastern Europe. Some of them were as young as 12 years old. And then, according to Virginia, these girls were taken to Jeffrey's Island, and there was a photo shoot where they were topless, as young as 12 years old. Okay, just ugh. When Jeffrey was in jail the first time, Jean-Luc visited him 67 times. The next person on the list is former Governor Bill Richardson, and this is the former governor of New Mexico. He was allegedly a guest of honor at Jeffrey's ranch, Zorro Ranch, and I talked before about how this was like a weird science experiment where he wanted to like repopulate and impregnate like all the girls and create like his own, I don't know, weird master pedophile race of himself. I don't know. But Epstein donated heavily to Bill Richardson, and there's a weird thing that happened with the way he purchased the property, the Zorro Ranch, which is the largest home, I think, in New Mexico. And it's extremely isolated and surrounded by just wilderness all around, the perfect place for him to do the horrible things he did there. And Virginia claims that she was made to sleep with him. Bill Richardson denies this, and the money that was given to him by Epstein, he gave it back. I think he donated it. So everyone's trying to like wash their hands like as soon as this all came out. So another politician was a senator, and this was someone named by Virginia. This was George Mitchell, and his name was also found in Epstein's Black Book. He was the former Democratic leader of the Senate. He was also special envoy for Northern Ireland. He was also special envoy for Northern Ireland during President Clinton's term and special envoy to the Middle East during President Obama's term. In 2003, he praised Epstein in a Vanity Fair article. He said, quote, "He has supported some philanthropic projects of mine and organized a fundraiser for me once. I would certainly call him a friend and a supporter." He was also allegedly, he was also a house guest at Epstein's home in Palm Beach, Florida. He also denies everything, of course, and he said the allegation contained in the released documents is false. I have never met, spoken, or had any contact with Ms. Giuffre. The last name that was mentioned by Virginia is Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a very prominent lawyer, and he has, of course, denied the allegations. He was also Epstein's lawyer against the allegations the first time, in the ones that were in Florida. And he also, remember I told you about Judge Kenneth Mara and how he removed Prince Andrew from the lawsuit? He did the same thing with Alan Dershowitz. Let me read you the quote. This is from an article in Politico. It says, U.S. District Court Judge Kenneth Mara on Tuesday turned down an effort by alleged victim known as Jane Doe No. 3 and another alleged victim called Jane Doe No. 4 to join a long-pending lawsuit challenging the legality of federal prosecutors' agreement not to prosecute wealthy investor Jeffrey Epstein if he entered guilty pleas to state charges. Mara seemed sympathetic to Dershowitz's claims that he was gratuitously attacked in the legal pleadings. Jane Doe No. 3, quote, names several individuals, and she offers details about the type of sex acts performed and where they took place, Mara wrote in a 10-page order. At this juncture in the proceedings, these lurid details are unnecessary to the determination of whether Jane Doe 3 and Jane Doe 4 should be permitted to join petitioners' claim that the government violated their rights under the Crime Victims Act. The factual details regarding with whom and where the Jane Does engaged in sexual activities are immaterial and impertinent to this central claim. These unnecessary details shall be stricken. So let's talk about Alan Dershowitz. He was a frequent house guest of Epstein's homes in both New York and Palm Beach, Florida. He and his wife, Carolyn Cohen, even stayed with Epstein on his island. Yes, that island. Dershowitz was Epstein's lawyer, as I said, and many think he was instrumental in getting Epstein off so easy. And there are two of Epstein's victims who claim to have had sex with him. Of course, he denies them. He said, quote, "These stories are so phantasmological. Okay, so those are the people mentioned by name. There are others that were mentioned vaguely, like a prominent prime minister, the hotel chain owner, another prince in the south of France, the well-known prime minister, all of those. So let's go through them and see, allegedly, speculation, don't sue me, who they could potentially maybe be. I'm terrified of getting sued off of this video. Still making it though. YOLO. No one says YOLO anymore. It's 2022. So there were a few princes that were in the little black book, but there was only one prince that I found in another article. And this prince also goes to the south of France, again, allegedly. But let me read you this article. Okay, it says, after a few minutes, Mr. Epstein bounded in, dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt, shook my hand and said he was a big fan of my work. He had a big smile and warm manner. Before we left the room, he took me to a wall covered with framed photographs. He pointed to a full-length shot of a man in traditional Arab dress. That's MBS, he said, referring to Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. The crown prince had visited him many times, and they spoke often, Mr. Epstein said. Okay, so some people think that MBS could be the prince. There's also another prince that was in the Little Black Book, and his name is Prince Pierre de Arenberg. He's a German prince, but I didn't find anything else in terms of the relationship between them. The only extra thing I found about another prince who wasn't Prince Andrew was this article talking about how he visited him a lot and he came to him. So that doesn't prove anything, but I thought I'd mention it. Okay, I hope I don't die in an embassy in Turkey. Oh my God, I'm kind of scared. Allegedly, I'm crazy. Limited flight, I'm crazy. The large hotel chain owner, this is what Virginia said, quote, one time in France, I believe it was around the same time that Naomi Campbell had a birthday party. She says they had sex in his own cabana townhouse thing. It was part of a hotel. Jeffrey was staying there. Ghislaine was staying there. I found one person that it might be, again, I'm not sure, but it's allegedly Tom Pritzker, the executive chairman of the Hyatt Hotels Corporation. His name was found in Epstein's Black Book and on the private jet logs. The next person was mentioned by Virginia as an unnamed foreign president, and she said he is Spanish. It could potentially, allegedly, maybe be Andre Pastrana Arango, the former Colombian president. His name was found in Epstein's Little Black Book and on the Lolita Express logs, and he was filed in the address book under ex-president of Colombia. And it is said that in 2003, Epstein flew to Cuba aboard his plane with the Colombian president, Andre Pastrana Arango, at the invitation of Cuban President Fidel Castro. According to Fabiola Santiago of the Miami Herald, Epstein was considering relocating to Cuba in order to escape U.S. law enforcement when he was under investigation for what he was doing in Florida. And so could this be the president that she was talking about, who was Spanish, who was in his Little Black Book and on the flight logs? I don't know, you tell me. The next person is a well-known prime minister. Okay, who could it be? Well, a lot of people think this well-known prime minister is Ehud Barak, a former prime minister of Israel. There are photographs of Ehud Barak at Epstein's home in New York, and he appears to be hiding himself. Ehud Barak admits to one of the pictures, I think it's the one where he's wearing a hat. He says, "It is me in the picture. It was so cold, the Middle Easterner had to put on a hat. I was there for lunch or chat, nothing else. So what?" So they have these business ties as well. There was a startup that Epstein funded. So this is where a lot of those rumors come in, with him being a spy or an informant for intelligence. And they think it's the Mossad, like the Israeli CIA, because there's a lot of connections between Jeffrey and Israel. He's been there several times. There's one thing in a newspaper that I found that says billionaire Jeffrey Epstein at the Tel Aviv Hilton in Israel, where a spokesman says he was spending Passover meeting with Israeli research scientists and taking a tour of military bases. No massages, it says. So this was after his scandals. And so the theory with the whole Mossad Epstein thing is Ghislaine Maxwell, her dad, was linked with the Mossad. And then there was a crazy thing where it was like, did he kill himself? Was he pushed off of a boat? The walls were closing in on him. And then it's like, were Ghislaine and Jeffrey working to get intelligence on powerful people and politicians to get them in a compromising position to either use as leverage or blackmail in some sort of thing? I don't know. I mean, this sounds like straight out of a movie, but you know, they say truth is stranger than fiction. These are all the names and descriptions of people that Virginia mentioned. Now I want to go into the second part of this video, what I call the notable mentions. These are people that have been mentioned by people who have looked at the flight logs, photos, and they've made the connections, and these people have had to come out and explain their connection to Jeffrey Epstein and why they were on the flight logs or why they were friends with him, that kind of thing, okay? So the first person I want to talk about is Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton. He was on the Lolita Express a lot, like 27 times, a lot. And he, at first, he only said he was on there 4 times, but then it was revealed it was way more than that. According to Virginia, she said that she saw President Clinton at the island, saying that it was during a trip that included 2 young girls from New York. Quote, I remember asking Jeffrey, what's Bill Clinton doing here, kind of thing. And he laughed it off and said, well, he owes me a favor. And then the next person I want to talk about is Donald Trump. This whole thing really exploded during 2016, during the elections. And he flew at least 7 times. At first, I think he said he was only on the plane once, and there's video. They used to be friends in the 90s, and in Mar-a-Lago there's like video of Trump and Epstein. Then there's this quote from Trump in 2002 in New York Magazine where he says this about Epstein. He says, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. It is said that in 2007, Trump banned Jeffrey from Mar-a-Lago for hitting on one of the club members' daughters. And this was brought forth first by Bradley Edwards, who was a lawyer representing Epstein's victims. And then later on, he said it was a rumor that he, quote, tried to, but could not confirm. Then in 2016, there was a lawsuit against Trump. It was dropped soon after, but in the lawsuit, a girl claimed she was raped by Trump at Epstein's home in Manhattan. Virginia, she said she never saw Trump having sex with any of the girls, but that he was friends with Epstein. And the next person I want to talk about is Bill Gates.
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Those meetings were a mistake. That goes back a long time ago now. And, I've said I regretted having those dinners. And there's absolutely nothing new on that. He's dead. So, in general, you always have to be careful. And, I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
They first met in 2011, and they met several times. At first, they would meet at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. There is a person, her name is Melanie Walker, and another person called Boris Nikolic. They were close to Epstein and Bill Gates, and they kind of connected them. And it's really strange because Boris Nikolic was named in Epstein's will, which he changed right before he died. So let me tell you what happened. So Melanie Walker, she met Epstein in 1992. Then she started working for, why did I say it like that? Working for Epstein. He hired her as a science advisor in 1998. And then in 2006, she joined the Gates Foundation, Bill Gates Foundation, and she was a senior program officer. At this foundation, Melanie Walker meets Boris Nikolic. Okay, Boris Nikolic is really good friends with Bill Gates. They travel together, they socialize together. When Bill Gates first met Epstein, Eva Dubin was there with her daughter. Bill Gates stayed very late into the night. There's an email, and they had dinner together several times. Bill Gates donated like $2 million to, what was it, MIT? Yeah. Bill Gates donates $2 million to MIT on advice of Jeffrey Epstein, but there are emails where he's like, don't mention that Epstein has anything to do with this. So it seemed like he was aware of Epstein's past. Regarding the will, It says here, days before Mr. Epstein hanged himself in the Manhattan jail cell on August 10th. So when Jeffrey Epstein amended his will right before he died, it says he amended his will and named Mr. Nikolic as a fallback executor in the event that one of the two primary executives were unable to serve. The next people I want to mention were in the Little Black Book and on the flight logs, and they have their own unsavory rumors, patterns, allegations about them. And so I think taking those things, combining it with their affiliation with Epstein, allegedly. So the first person is Ron Burkle, a supermarket magnate is what is said here. He was in the Little Black Book. He was on the flight logs. He bought and sold huge grocery stores like Ralph's. Ron Burkle has shares in so many different major businesses, as well as a lot of he had shares in Whole Foods. He sold Safeway, Fred Meyer, Food for Less, Ralph's, Kroger. He is Barnes and Noble's largest shareholder. He owns 18.7% of the stock, and he offered to purchase the Sacramento Kings, and he even more things, right? He donates politically. He donated to Bill and Hillary Clinton. So it says here, I want to read you this quote, okay? It says here, and Bill and Ron Burkle's really close with Bill Clinton, and I think they were on the, yes, it says here they were on the Lolita Express together. Burkle's usual means of transport is the custom converted Boeing 757 that Clinton calls Ron Air, and that Burkle's own circle of young aides privately refer to as Air Fuck One. So I mean, Lolita Express or Air Fuck One, you choose. Then the other person that was in the Little Black Book that has a weird thing with him too is Bill Berkman. He's described as a New York businessman. Berkman was sued in 2014 by his administrative assistant, who said she was forced to read emails he had sent to a colleague containing pictures of random and unsuspecting women on the street. That is creep shots. The suit was settled. The next person I want to mention is Woody Allen. Okay, now, did you guys see that documentary that came out not too long ago about with Dylan, his daughter, and then he married the adopted daughter, Sunyi. The whole thing's weird. Well, there is a photograph of him with Epstein, and there is a 16-year-old who Woody Allen had an affair with, and it was supposedly inspiration for this movie he had that I think he was nominated or won an Oscar for, a movie where it was an old man with a young girl. And it says here the girl, her name is Bobby Christina Engelhart, and she says that she has sex with him more than 100 times. She went on to become Epstein's assistant. So the young girl that Woody Allen was having an affair with was later Epstein's assistant. Another person who was in the Little Black Book was the Sultan of Brunei. His name is Hassan al-Bolkiah, and he met with Epstein at least one time in 2002, and when Bill Clinton was there as well. And it says here that he was once sued by Miss USA in 1997. She claimed she had been held as a sex slave, but the suit was dismissed on the grounds that he had sovereign immunity. Another person in the Little Black Book connected to Epstein is Leon Black. He's described as a private equity tycoon. Okay, he's a billionaire, and he's the chairman of MoMA and the co-founder of the Apollo Global Management, some company. And actually, he had an accuser that claimed that he flew her to Florida to have sex with Jeffrey Epstein. That Leon Black allegedly did that. And she's a former Russian model. Her name is Guzel Geneva. And she said that in 2008, while Epstein was serving a prison sentence for soliciting a minor for prostitution, Leon Black flew her in his private jet to Palm Beach to meet Epstein, whom he had previously referred to as his best friend. Ms. Geneva soon found herself alone with Black and Epstein in a room that appeared to be an office. At the time, Epstein was on a prison work release that allowed him to work in his private office for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And he's supposedly in prison. The next person is Charlie Rose. He's a news anchor, journalist. He had a show on PBS, and there was a scandal with him where there was reports of sexual harassment in the workplace at PBS, but there's also a connection with Epstein. It says that there were written call logs from 2005 and 2006 that show that Epstein and his own assistant called dozens of times. They called Charlie Rose dozens of times, making plans for lunch and tea in Manhattan or to try to meet up in Paris. It says Epstein also called with a total of 5 women's names and phone numbers. One woman was described as world's most perfect assistant. She used to work for Harvey Weinstein. He's lucky if he can get her. Another entry reads, Jeffrey Epstein wants to talk to you before you call these 2 girls. It says Rose hired 3 of these women that Jeffrey Epstein recommended. There's also Kevin Spacey. He was on the flight logs and in the black book. And then he also has allegations against him for sexual harassment or even assault. But allegedly, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. The next person is Robert Trivers. He's an evolutionary biologist, and he has an interesting take because he feels like even if it was with teenage girls or underage girls, like it's not a big deal. He's an evolutionary biologist, remember. So he says, this is in 2015, he was defending Epstein. He goes, by the time they're 14 or 15, they're like grown women were 60 years ago. So I don't see these acts as so heinous. Now he says that those comments were stupid and offensive. It's very interesting how this all went down because if you'll remember, Epstein was arrested. And the day before he was found dead, it was said that he was going to name names. And these documents were unsealed. And then all of a sudden, he's found dead. And I'm not going to go into the details of how it was. I've already gone into it, the logs and all the autopsy. I've gone into all of that in, I think, part 2. Then after Ghislaine, right, she recently had her trial. She was found guilty. She was sentenced. Ghislaine's attorney came out and said, quote, after careful review of the detailed objections submitted by non-party does 17, 53, 54, 55, 73, 93, and 151, counsel for Ghislaine Maxwell writes to inform the court that she does not wish to further address those objections. Each of the listed does has counsel who have ably asserted their own respective privacy rights. Miss Maxwell therefore leaves it to this court to conduct the appropriate review. So who is the judge that's going to decide this? Her name is Judge Loretta Preska. She is going to be the one who decides whether these names are going to be released. I don't know. Even if the names do come out, are they going to face justice? I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, those are the theories on who Jeffrey Epstein's clients are. I know this was a totally different style of video, but I wanted to make it, and so I did. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.